Welcome to the Chiron Asteroid series. We're talking about Chiron Retrograde today. And Justin Crockett Elzie is back joining me again. I'm happy to have him here. Welcome, Justin.
Thanks, Liz. It's great seeing you again.
Yeah, and we're
Talking
on
about
to some more.
Another asteroid here.
Yeah, it's exciting. So here we go. So to get a hold of Justin, his website is justincrockettelzie.com. And my website is alightpath.com. And we always enjoy hearing from you. And to start out with a quote about Chiron, why do we need Chiron? Chiron will show us where the wound is, where the break occurred, and then what the person must do to be able to see the true reality, begin to heal, and to focus on becoming whole. This is by Zane Stein from his book Chiron, Healer and Wholemaker. So Chiron, it was discovered in 1977. The orbit is 50.39 years. Chiron's a large asteroid that orbits between Saturn and Uranus. In 1977, was classified as an asteroid number 2060 and a minor planet. And then 1989, found to exhibit behavior of a comet. So it's classified as a Centaur, asteroid, comet, and a minor planet. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Do you want to do this one?
Yeah. So in astrology, we look at Chiron as the wounded healer, but he's also really widely known as the teacher because that's what he was. He was a teacher of the gods. And more, I sometimes personally put him more as a teacher than a healer. He was a shaman and a tutor, guru, guide, foster parent, and really an alchemist. And some of the keywords here are transforming pain, fear, and suffering into healing, growth, and power, and sharing what we've learned to assist to help others heal. That's what really Chiron ends up being our greatest strength.
I agree. So in mythology, a centaur is part horse and part man. And then, unlike other centaurs, he rose above the beastly nature. He's known for his wisdom and knowledge of medicine, and credited with the discovery of botany, pharmacy, and the science of herbs and medicine. And his stepfather was Apollo, who taught him herbs, medicine, and archery. You want to do this one?
No, I want you to do this one because you added to it. I thought it was really great. I think it's a really kind of a really interesting thing to go deeper into how we may see the wound archetypically and play with that concept of wound.
Well, most of us know him about his second wound, but there was a first wound because he was rejected from his mother, and his mother never wanted to see him again. And also by his father because he had a fear of being known for his infidelity. So his conception and birth, there was this rejection around that. And then the second wound was about him being wounded by a poisoned arrow dipped in the blood of Hydra. And after that second wound, he retreated to a cave to heal himself and couldn't. And in pain, and he couldn't die because of his immortality. He eventually traded his immortality for the release of Prometheus, the god punished for gifting fire to humans. Zeus honored Chiron's sacrifice and wisdom by allowing him to be placed among the stars for eternity.
So Liz, I was going to say, can I make a comment about this?
Oh, absolutely.
So, on that first wound, as you and I had that prior podcast where we talked about the Chiron Hygeia conjunction happening postnatally for everyone within the first 6 years after their birth. And this first wound here for him involved family, the father and the mother. And this could represent those themes right there: fear, rejection, could be represent Chiron, let's say, in Aries or in Taurus, or not fitting into the family, Chiron in Aquarius. And I forget what the other one you had there under the first wound. It was, what was it? Oh, fear of being known for his infidelity. So Chiron in Leo, Chiron in Leo is trying to hide something about themselves. They're worried about how other people see them. And then, of course, conception and birth. And so Chiron through the signs kind of can fit into that first wound. Then it asks us to take a look at the second wound. And I think there's something deeper complex about the second wound, that it actually can represent being wounded along with others, and what we may have to live with over time, that is a lifetime of a wound that we constantly have to work on.
Well, and he was always searching for family, and kind of felt like an outcast in certain ways. So and then there was something else she said, but now I don't remember. What I was going to comment.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go.
So there's a lot more to that to unpack, but I thought it was really good how you pointed out the two archetypal theme there of wounds, and how a lot of what we go through in life can be fit under those two wounds.
Right. And as we go on, because this is going to be a 3-part series, this one that we're doing today on Chiron retrograde, and the one we did before, the link is in the notes below the video here if you want to go back and watch that if you haven't watched it. So the big theme is Chiron retrograde. It stations retrograde on July 26 at 23 degrees Aries in 32 minutes at 6:59 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and the chart is cast for Seattle, but I have Eastern Daylight Time of 9:59 a.m. And in this chart, Chiron is circled there for everybody to see in the 9th house. So, there could be some wounding perhaps around, or we feel things around philosophy and religion and our education, because I know the education systems around here are certainly going through some big changes.
Right.
Would you like to make any comments?
Yeah, I think it's time to kind of give a teaser out here, or kind of give a lead in here, to let people know that about Aries, which is right next to Chiron. We're going to talk about that today. That's because they're conjunct. And so everything that we're looking at each of these charts, we have to take in that conjunction of Aries with Chiron is a part of every aspect that we're pretty much looking at today. But you're going to talk about Aries, I believe, and the importance of its relationship with Chiron.
Yeah, I think we talk about that after the Sabian Symbols, but we'll see.
Yeah, I just want to give a teaser into that.
I love it. So the Sabian Symbols were channeled in 1925 by spiritualist medium Elzie Wheeler, and with the assistance of Mark Edmund Jones. And he was an astrologer, an occultist, a writer, a script writer, and an actor, which I just found out today. I didn't know those things about him. So, and Mr. Jones believed that Elzie had tapped into the ancient mind matrix. There's one symbol for each of the 360 degrees of the zodiac. So it's like a phrase or some words that describe that. And so it makes up a picture or a vision or an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then we have the Sabian symbols for Chiron retrograde, and we do the past, the present, and what's next. Even though it's going retrograde, we're starting out with this one this time, but then next time we'll do it in reversed order.
Yeah.
So do you want to start with the first one?
Sure. So Aries 22 degrees, the gate to the garden of unfulfilled desires. The keynote is abundance made possible by human togetherness and cooperation. And the key phrase here is social feeling of abundance, glamorizing into cosmic optimism and success.
Well, I like that. And it sounded like you said unfulfilled desires, but it's all fulfilled desires, but I could have heard wrong. But
No, I did say actually unfulfilled desires because I think that's I think that's kind of what we're working towards with this retrograde, maybe a little bit, in all the aspects of Venus, working with our unfulfilled desires. Maybe that's what I was thinking.
okay. And then Aries 23, the now, a pregnant woman in a light summer dress. Facunidity, I didn't say that right, but it's about new growth and fertility. Suggests inner fulfillment. So, boy, they're both talking about fulfillment. That's interesting.
Yeah. And then Aries 24, blown inward by the wind, the curtains of an open window take the shape of a cornucopia. It's sort of that thing that we all see at Thanksgiving that has all the fruit coming out of it, the cornucopia. Keynote here is openness to the influx of spiritual energies. Key phrases molded by transpersonal forces. I generally see this one in a chart with somebody who can be affected by what's kind of going on in the collective a lot. They're really kind of whipped like the wind, wow, news here, ooh, big event here. So they're kind of molded by transpersonal forces. I sometimes see that as related to the Aries 24.
So, maybe it's suggesting that we work on unfulfilled desires to become fulfilled. And it's like it'll take us in a new direction.
I love it. I love it.
Anything you want to add?
Well, I think we're going to see today that how the importance of Venus, which is about desires and our affections, and how that may um, play out with these Sabian symbols.
Cool. I like that. Okay, so with the Chiron retrograde, we start out with the first pattern. It's making a yod or a finger of God or a finger of fate with Juno and Pallas. And Juno is, who we partner with, who we, you know, hang out with. And then Pallas Athena is the wise strategist. And then they're putting this pressure on Chiron. Um, and that's on the same day as that it goes retrograde. So, what would you say about the yod?
No, I like that. I would also add in that, I see that Chiron seems to be the issue here, the wound of value here, of individuality, of self. And there's a big question here about um, how we value our relationships right now, especially in this collective. A lot of people are not valuing other people. And so I think that's part of that spiritual aspect too. And Palace, I also look at Palace. Your I forget what was the word you used for Palace.
Strategy and I forget what the other one was. I like to use wisdom with it because it's like
Wisdom, yes, yeah,
using your knowledge.
and I like to use the word patterns
Mhm.
because it's a pattern planet where you can see patterns, and so I think this informs us. And I love the word. I liked how you used the word decision for yachts. I also like to use the word mystery, and I think there's a undercurrent of a lot going on with our relationships in the collective right now. And I think this is informing us about patterns in our relationships, and are we valuing others no matter what their beliefs are or who they are.
Well, and it might be time to partner with somebody to take action to move forward, and kind of like you've partnered with me to do the Chiron series and the full moon series and the monthly overview. So it's like we've kind of partnered and to move forward ourselves. But like if you're wanting to heal something, it could be you might need the assistance of somebody that you can trust. It's like make a plan and but make sure who you partner with or who you choose to work with is going to help you move forward if you need to heal something.
Right. And there is as we get into this in our series, going backwards with those Sabian symbols, one of them talks about love, transmission of love as a concept, right? As we get back, I think we're at 22 degrees, but it will eventually go back to 19 degrees. And between 19 and 22, there's one of the Sabian symbols that talks about love. And I think that with Venus, again, Venus playing a big role as she's aspecting Chiron every month here. I think this is a really good time to ask ourselves, are we valuing people in our relationships?
And even valuing yourself too.
Yeah.
And not sacrificing or.
Yeah. From a mundane, because we did this show with Sue Minahan, and one of the things, just as if I could just say a side note about it from a mundane astrology perspective, group perspective, United States having a Chiron return. Chiron is in Aries for the United States, and it's about valuing the individual and who belongs. And as we see, there's this constant thing about, oh, that person doesn't belong in this country, or they're garbage. Some politician called people garbage today. I was like, no person's a garbage person. I mean, that's wrong. That's that Chiron. They're not valuing the individual, right? And so the United States is going through this constant thing about who belongs. Do we value every human? Right. And I think we could take that to our individual lives here. Are we valuing every person? I think this is a good time to, with a retrograde, because it's a retrograde. I think how you see it too, maybe a little bit. Sometimes it's about evaluating, what we value about our relationships and who we're valuing, maybe.
I always think of retrogrades as taking a step back and taking some introspection with yourself to move forward after when the planet goes direct.
Yeah, I agree. So these themes are what we're looking at. We're, like you said, we're evaluating, right?
Yes. And I wanted to show that there is other aspects in the chart happening, but since we're focusing on Chiron, that's why we talked about the Yod. But there's a grand trine in here. It's kind of it's a crossover between Earth and air. So I mean, there's other things going on. Is there anything that you wanted to speak to? Because I just wanted to briefly talk about. But if you have something that's jumping out at
No,
you,
not particularly. But I think it's a really good. I think it's. There is that grand trine there between Juno and Pluto and Uranus there. That's kind of interesting. So definitely Uranus. Pluto trine, definitely a time, a period of change, and a change with our relationship since it's trining Juno as well.
right? How we do relationships,
Yeah,
with people, with countries, with work, on every level.
right.
And then here's what we call hard aspects, but it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be hard. And I don't think there was really much going on with the Chiron in hard aspects. So, but I just wanted people to see what was going on. There is a T square there. It looks like between the moon in Ceres and the nodes and Ceres. So, there's some action there that needs to take place, but it's not really involving Chiron. Did you want to
Yeah,
speak to any of those?
yeah. There, not that we generally talk about it too much, but Chiron is squaring the vertex point here in this. So I think that highlights that there'll be specific situations and people that are going to come into our life and teach us lessons about this whole concept we're talking about today about Chiron and the value. And then I think what jumps out to me at this particular chart, of course, we know next month it'll change, but there's that Pluto Sun opposition, and it's an individualistic signs, so I think that plays out.
Okay.
That tension.
Okay, and you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of summarize the effects of Chiron during this retrograde period from July 26th through December 29th. Because we had some people write in about how it applies to them on an individual level, but then some people like to know, well, how does this affect the group, the collective, right? The group think. And so on a group level, which is what we would call mundane astrology, this Chiron retrograde, some of the themes here is the value of individuals in the collective and who belongs, who doesn't. And because Jupiter is sextiling Chiron through this whole period, and Jupiter's in the sign of communications and our desires as a collective are a major theme, our beliefs, and because Venus is also aspecting Chiron almost every week throughout the whole series. On an individual level, natal astrology, we're apt to run into situations right now. And events in people's lives that highlight the theme of being valued and valuing themselves. Again, communications and our desires are a major theme. So a lot of people, I think you've probably maybe seeing some of this with clients. Some people are running into situations in work where they're really starting to evaluate whether they're being valued right now. And others are looking at situations with family and with partners and are, about honoring the value of the individual.
Well, and you put the communication in there. Mercury is also aspecting Chiron several times over this period too, so that's another level of that communication. And that's great. I like what you said. Thanks.
Yeah.
And then I made an aspect table and the degrees and the glyphs and the quality and the keyword, just for those that don't know, what they are. So it's like you can always come back and watch the video and stop it and take a picture if you want. You can usually find these kind of tables on the internet, but I'm going to put one on my website in the next few days. So if you can download it there, because I'll make it in a PDF for people to download.
Yeah.
And then Justin had mentioned earlier that the dwarf planet Aries is conjunct Chiron pretty much through this whole time. It's within 2 to 4 degrees over these 5 months. So it felt very important to add her in. She's named the goddess of discord and strife. She's the largest known dwarf planet, about the same size as Pluto. Her orbit around the sun is 558 years, and she will be in Aries from 1926 to 2048. So pretty much everybody alive has Eris in Aries. She's the female equivalent to Mars and also the sister to Mars. And how we use Eris is that when we express our rebellious side, sometimes that could be Eris showing. And then she's about strength and wisdom and making a stand for what you believe in. Would you like to add anything?
No, I think you got it covered. I love this one.
Thanks.
Especially when we talk about goddesses. I love goddess asteroids.
Go ahead with this one.
So we listed here the different trines during July and August. That's all we're covering today in this first part of the series. So Venus and Sun and Mercury and Vesta are trining Chiron through the July-August period. Mars is sextiling. Kind of important to remember, because that also means at some point Eris is also sextiling Mars here. So that's kind of important. And then the yod there with Juno and Pallas.
So we start out with Chiron trine Venus, and the exact hit of that, or the exact timing of that, is July 30th. But the phase of it's from July 24th through August 4th. And then there'll be another one in November, on November 3rd. And we'll talk about that in episode 2 or 3 of this series. So we have Chiron in the 9th house. They're circled in a pinkish color. And then Venus is in a blue color to show where they're at. So, that's a nice cooperative aspect that they're making. So, Venus about love and beauty. So, helping to heal our wound or to show what we know, perhaps. What would you like to say?
Yeah, and Venus and Leo can also be concerned about how it looks to others, and about beauty of one's face and appearance, and how it looks to others. So, um, in the culture that we currently live in, political and entertainment, we may see some things around this time where uh, people are seen in a little bit different light. The Chiron is going to have some effect on Venus, on the way some people are seen. So we're maybe apt to, this generally happens. I've seen this happen, and I'm sure you've seen this too, where usually, like, when a person, like a celebrity, is found cheating, or goes to court for abusing people, generally it's a fall from grace. Chiron with the Venus here, so we're apt to see some people's masks fall off maybe here a little bit with this.
Well, and with Eris conjunct that Chiron, it could become super public and maybe not so pretty.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay, and then we have Chiron trine the sun. And it's also loosely trine the moon because the moon moves pretty quickly. It's exact on August 15th, but the phase is from August 7th to the 22nd, and then it'll be trine the sun again on December 10th. So bringing, some another aspect of ease or cooperation with that sun. And so, we had Venus in the slide before, and now we go to the sun. So, and it's in Leo also. So, that energy, that fire energy, to maybe that initiative to, heal or teach, or maybe even learn about herbs and healing yourself.
Yeah, I think what as we were talking about this, I was thinking maybe to tell folks to kind of think it in this perspective, that within these first July, August period here, Chiron is informing us a lot about the Leo archetype. Whereas when we move into September, it's going to be informing us, our second part of our series is going to be informing us about Chiron's relationship with Virgo. And then in October, Chiron's relationship with Libra, and then we move into November. Of course, it'll be with Scorpio and Libra, and then we move into Sag. So it's almost like this is a really important time to think about that archetype of Leo, which is about creativity and self authenticity, and that Leo archetype. How would you describe the Leo archetype here?
Well, it's like I always think of Leos wanting to be noticed and seen, and, kind of center stage, so to speak. So maybe with this aspect, it'll give people the courage to be a little bit more in the limelight, so to speak, because sometimes some people like want to stay on the edges or the background, or they've had some really good ideas and now maybe they'll move forward with it.
Yeah. And so if we look at certain planets in Leo, as John Chenworth was saying on our past show about American presidents, they usually have some like important planets in Leo, like Mars, because both Harris and Trump have their Mars in Leo. And it just so happens, it's interesting, we see this trine here. Trump's actually moon is in Sag.
Oh,
so I think if Chiron's aspecting Venus, we already talked about that can have a positive thing about um, in a way of us healing, the way we don't worry about how other people see us, possibly. But then the downside is that then it's a fall from grace. All of a sudden that mask falls off, right? And I think the same thing could happen here, is that there's going to be, because the sun represents the core of the self, that this is really about this minus the moon here, but the sun Chiron is about valuing that self, that core being of who we are, personality wise. But then it's also can be a fall from grace with here Chiron trining the sun, even though it's not a hard aspect. It's still an easy flow for either positive or negative event, you know.
Well, it almost feels like if you've done something that wasn't nice, it could be exposed. It has that feel to it to me.
Yeah, yeah, and about valuing ourselves really here
Mhm.
too, or not caring about how other people see us. You know, getting past that, right? That's the mature Leo. You know,
Right, right. And just be, not a show off, but just be comfortable with who and what you are
right?
instead of,
Authentic, right?
yes,
Vulnerable and authentic. Yep.
absolutely. Okay, then we move on to Chiron trine Mercury, and it's exact on August 23rd, September 18th, November 19th, and December 1st. But we're going to talk about this one here in August, and it's in phase from August 14th to September 8th. And I would say that communication, of if you have a wound, to communicate about it, whether it's to write it down or to go to counseling and tell somebody, or tell somebody that you can trust. Like, there's some kind of communication, write a book about it. It's really important. But then it can also be, if you have something to teach, it's time to start telling people, whether you start a blog or a podcast or a Facebook group. It doesn't really matter what you do, but it's like kind of time. And it, maybe not during the retrograde, but it's maybe time to do the background work to get it going when Chiron goes direct.
Absolutely. And I also like to look at Mercury, besides what you're talking about. I like to look at Mercury as that's kind of the way we think and where we communicate, of course, but the way we think. And so definitely a time to watch our communications right around this period of time, because that Mercury and Leo can be a little bit demonstrative, can we say, a little bit over the top possibly. And so this definitely a time to see how to kind of watch maybe our ego a little bit in our communications, and make sure that doesn't hurt others. But from a creative standpoint, back to what you're saying, I think, I find that Mercury and Leo is like the brainstormer. They
Mm,
got ideas coming left and right, and this may be the time where some of those ideas, back to what you like to use the word, I think it's evaluate, right?
yes,
For Chiron retrograding, that maybe evaluating some of our creative ideas, you know.
right. And it's like Chiron's in a fire sign, Mercury's in a fire sign, and sometimes it's like the words just like fly out of your mouth. But if at all possible, maybe learn to like count to 3 or 5 or something, and like think of the best way you could say
Yeah,
it.
exactly. I like that.
And then we have Chiron trine Vesta, and Vesta is an asteroid of hearth and home and um, the the flame, and that is exact on August 10th, and is within phase from July 26th through August 22nd. What would you say about that one, Justin?
Well, I also like to look at Vesta kind of like that kind of archetypal picture all around in the community around the campfire, right? And it's a community campfire kind of thing, and what our role is in the collective. If we have Venus and if we have Vesta and Leo, then we're the one that's going to want to be, producing the entertainment around the campfire, right? There's this performative effect with the hearth here and the fun, having fun and jovial and parties and togetherness with Leo, with Vesta. So this could be the time where we make sure we value everybody with that. Invite people to our parties, and maybe a time when we may question whether we fit into certain groups or community. Uh, and ones that support our creative individuality. So that may come into play as a theme, just one of many themes that could happen. What do you think?
Oh, I agree. And it's like I want to say, make sure you tend the fire and watch it because everything's so dry right now. We don't want to start any fires.
Right.
And
Exactly.
it kind of feels like it's okay to entertain or have a party, but I would caution to not over invite. So like if you can handle a dozen people, don't invite 50 people. Because they might even bring their friends and you could have way bigger party and it's could be overwhelming.
I was also going to say, if you're a creative healer, like art therapy, that's sort of indicative of Vesta, with Leo. You're around drumming around the fire. I should pull out my drum over here, and 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 this is where sometimes we could use what's the saying? Laughter is the best medicine, and so this could be a time where we kind of lean more into art and theater for healing those wounds, right? And helping us um, heal from certain things.
That's good. And also, like if you had a party, invite people that you really want to be around and visit with. Don't just invite people just to have people around.
Right.
Okay, then the next one is Chiron is sextile to Mars, and it's exact on August 24th and is in phase from August 19th through August 29th. Um, and a sextile is also a cooperative flowing aspect. Um, and Mars rules that Chiron because Mars is the ruler of Aries. So Mars is ruling that, and Mars is in Gemini. So Mars might want to have some words, and they could be good words or bad words. So again, be careful with your communication. It feels like it'd be a really good time to write out if you have some wounds that you need to peel off some more layers and get deeper and release. It's like releasing the pressure point, so to speak, but it doesn't mean you have to forget what happens, but you can, bring it down a notch or two, perhaps.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I agree. I like that. And I noticed that they're at 29 degrees here, an anaretic degree. Um, I definitely agree. There could be a lot of fiery, um, fiery communications during this period of time. This is the end of August there, so going to be a lot going on where maybe some of those communications aren't valuing other people again, trying to hurt others. So that's something just to be aware of our communication this time. That if it's a little debating or something, if we're debating others, that we value that every person's a soul that needs to be valued. Nobody's garbage. Every person is a valued soul, no matter what they've done in life or what they believe.
Well, and sometimes speaking and sharing with what your wound has been, like I said a few aspects ago, and I can't remember which one it was, but it could be sharing it to help other people heal because maybe you've made a lot of progress and now you're ready to share. Because
Absolutely. Mars and Gemini, write it. Write the book. Do a talk on your wound. Yeah. And this, you're right. You're so right. This could be the time when you do a talk about how you overcame a difficult situation in your life where you healed the wound from your childhood of trauma or something of that sort. Yeah, Mars and Gemini conjunct Jupiter there. That's the communicator, the writing, the talking about it. I agree. That's great.
Okay. So, and then we talked about the yacht a little bit earlier. Is there anything more you would like to say about the yacht or the finger of God?
I really think this underpins kind of what we've all been talking about, all these aspects. This is the mystery and sort of the of course it's called the finger of God, right? It's
Mhm.
sort of, I think, the spiritual aspect of what it's telling us, that this Chiron is doing during that period. It's informing us about our patterns and our wisdom of our relationships and wound and everything, and the spiritual component to it.
Right, and maybe just take some of that pressure off that wound that we've had and held for so many years, because a lot of us have childhood wounds or, different things that have happened. And it's like, maybe time to go join a group for whatever your specific thing is,
Right.
and share, and maybe that'll bring some healing to you too.
And of course, it's retrograde. It's not direct, it's retrograde. So what we're really talking about in this whole thing is evaluating, right? Evaluating, reassessing our wound versus going direct with it. It's going backwards. That's really what we're talking about here, retrograde.
Okay, and then to review, in July on the 26th, we had Mercury station retrograde, a yod or a finger of God with Juno and Pallas Athena. And on July 30th, we had a trine with Venus. Do you want to do this one?
Sure. In August, on the 10th, it'll be trine Vesta. On the 15th, it'll be trining the Sun. And on the 18th, it trines Mercury. And on the 24th, it sextiles Mars.
And then do you want to do the summary?
Sure. And whatever you want to add in on this. So, when we were talking earlier, I put this Chiron retrograde will be felt by everyone. The house in your natal chart that is ruled by Aries will be influenced the most. So if you know what house in your natal chart is ruled by Aries, this is where Chiron retrograde will be going through. If you have planets there, there will be part of a story going on. If not, then it's a general theme of self-value will still apply, even if you don't have planets in that house. Chiron is making major aspects with other planets. Look at the houses that are ruled by these signs. So whatever those, what we're talking about with Mars and Venus and Vesta, in your natal chart, if they are in the signs of Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, and Capricorn and Aquarius through this whole series up through December, this is where the action is. Take note of the planets you have in these signs because they may be aspected by the transiting Chiron and retrograde. So this first period, though, July through August, you'll want to really pay attention to those planets that are in Gemini, Cancer, and Leo.
Well, and if people want to find out more, Justin and I both do consultations with clients. So if you want to get a consult with us, just contact us and we'd be happy to
Absolutely
do that. So,
yeah. Anything else that you would add to that?
No, I thought that was a great summary. It's like, everybody's going to feel it, whether you have something in Aries or where Mars is. It's like the planets move, so it's like aspecting everything all the time, pretty much.
Right.
So, whether you feel it or sense it or see it in other people or see it in the news, and I don't watch much news, so I can't give any examples lately because I've been taking a news break lately. I can't take it anymore.
There's a woman running for president. Yay!
Well, I knew that. So, so that's good. Okay. So
that's why I like that Eris, what we were talking about, that divine feminine. That's awesome.
Yes. Okay. We do, Justin and I do 3 monthly podcasts, the full moon, the astrology forecast for the month, and the Chiron Asteroid series. And then I have a group called the Astrology Star Sisters Talk Over Tea. And there's 4 upcoming episodes. Dwarf Planet series and the Moon with Sue Minahan, Mars, Jupiter, Square Saturn with Madame Simon, the Leon Decon's Astrology and Tarot with Joy Vernon, and You're a Sky Full of Stars with Marcia Bouchard. And then Justin and I are on Talk Cosmos on August 4th at 1 p.m. and you can watch it live here on my channel. And Sue Minahan is a founder of Talk Cosmos. Oh, and Justin, I thought this would be a good spot because I didn't add it, of what you're doing, other series you're doing on Talk Cosmos, because you're doing another series on Talk Cosmos.
Yeah, we're doing with John Chenworth and Michael Bartlett. Both are great astrologers. John Chenworth, of course, is in Seattle, and Michael Bartlett is in New Mexico. And we're doing this with Sue Minahan. We're looking at the mundane astrology over this season. So we talked about the Republican convention and the candidates, J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. And then we'll be doing our next show next month, where we'll be talking about the Democratic convention, and we're going to be looking at Kamala Harris's chart and whoever she picks. Whoever she picks we don't know who that is yet. So we're excited, and so we talk about how they relate to one another and what we kind of see that what we may see come up with it, things.
Okay. Can we find that on your YouTube channel?
Yes, or you can go to Talk Cosmos and you can see it on there.
Okay, and then Justin and I both have newsletters and YouTube channels, so the information is here, and when you're watching, you can always pause it so you can write it down. And then this is what Justin's doing, and I'll let him talk about that.
Yeah, you can find a lot of my stuff on either Instagram or on YouTube, my podcast and my little video shorts that I do. So that's about it.
Well, and his series with the relationship guys is very interesting. I suggest you check it out because it's very interesting, and he does that with Michael Bartlett.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that coming from you, since you're a good relationship astrologer.
Well, there's a couple things I look a little different than you guys, but it's good that we all have a little different opinions. So
right,
I like it, but it's fun. It's entertaining. And so to get a hold of Justin, his website is justincrockettelzie.com, and you can email him at justin.elzie@gmail.com. And my website is alightpath.com, or you can email me, liz@alightpath. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to hearing from you. And we'll be back with our second series next month of the Chiron Retrograde, so we hope you'll tune in and join us. Goodbye for now.
See ya.